good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the podcast that explores the world within and out. And thank you for subscribing to Traveling Inside Out, wherever you get your podcast from. And if you can rate it on your favorite platform, I would love it. Thank you. Today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about my trip to Grand Canyon. Shortly, we went in March when not so many people usually go, and we were there for so basically we had, let's say, 24 hours slash 2 days. I will explain in a moment what that means, but we made it a longer trip and we did basically a loop. We were in Las Vegas, then we went to see the Grand Canyon in the south because it's closed in the north in March. And then we went around it and we also visited Bryce Canyon and Bryce Canyon and then Zion National Park. And then we went back to Las Vegas. So we did a little bit of a loop. It was a very interesting trip. And so, if you are interested in finding out about transportation, accommodation, food, and what places we were able to visit in March, listen ahead. Let me tell you shortly what the plan was and then what we managed to do. The plan was the following: I wanted to see the sunset and the sunrise in Grand Canyon. So, the way that I planned the trip was this: to leave very early from Las Vegas, do some stops until we get to Las Vegas. We had accommodation booked for one night in Williams, which is about 1 hour away from the entry of Grand Canyon South. And we would go around the sunset, more or less, time. We would see the sunset from the Grand Canyon, then we would go back. So basically, we would pass by the accommodation, but not stop there. We would continue to visit the Grand Canyon, then we would come back to the accommodation, then we would go again to the Grand Canyon, and we would continue our trip, basically, all the way to the other accommodation that was in Colorado City. That is an actual city that is in Arizona, on the Arizona and Utah state line. Okay. Well, we decided because of that we had to leave very early in the morning. But before I tell you about the trip, I can tell you about transportation, which I might have briefly mentioned it in the Las Vegas trip as well. We decided to rent a car, but we decided to rent a car from this app that is similar with Airbnb. I think it's called Turo. And you get to rent cars from people. So we rented the car. We paid less than $300 for the car for 5 days, basically. And it was a Toyota Corolla. It was a good car. We didn't have any problems with it. And we had like over, I don't remember, was it 1,200 miles included? So we looked and there was some cars that had unlimited mileage, or there was this car that had whatever. And after my calculations, without fully truly knowing, I was like, I don't think we need necessarily unlimited. Very important to know is that if you can help it, it depends on your plans and whatever you want to do. Again, we were in Las Vegas for a few days and we did not need the car in Las Vegas, so that's why we decided to rent it from later. If you can help it not to get the car from, like if you book it in advance and so on, not to get it from the airport, that usually costs you 50 or even more bucks because in the airport they need to pay extra taxes or whatever the reason it is. If you can help it not to get it at the airport, that would save you some money according to my experience. So we pick up the car. It just happened. So because I wanted to leave very early morning, I think it was the 28th of March. I wanted to get the car. I was like, we're gonna pay a little bit extra, but I would rather do that. I wanted to get the car in the evening of the 27th. it just happened that it was rather close to where we were living. But we were actually coming from the strip, so we walked all the way to there, which was a little bit of a walk. But it was fine. We booked it to pick it up at 9, and we were a little bit late, but it was rather close to our accommodation. It was like 5 minutes drive and a bit more walk because we were supposed to go around it as a person. Like we couldn't, like we were able to see our accommodation from close to where we picked up the car. However, we had to go all around it, whatever. Anyway, we picked up the car, we went to the hotel, we left it there. And then the next day morning around 7-ish, we decided to leave. So we left, and I wanted to make one stop at the Las Vegas sign. Now, it was not that long of a queue, but I said this in a previous episode, I think in the Las Vegas episode, I truly hate posing at this length, like these famously known places when you travel, basically. And so what made it even more unbearable for me was that there was an Elvis lookalike person that was taking pictures, and he was making it fun. He was like, yeah, do this, do that. And I was like, I don't know if that Elvis is together with a group. I don't know if that Elvis is just there. I don't know if he's gonna ask for money. I don't want to stay in line, and I don't want for the Elvis to take pictures of me because it's very awkward, and I hate this kind of, I can't tell, it feels like my skin is crawling, like I have something crawling under my skin. I cannot explain it why. I really do not know why I drag it so much, but I do. Dread it so much, not drag it. Dread it so much, but I do. So then I just went basically around the people and I just took a picture of the sign really quick. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, let's just go. However, as I said, I wanted to do a few stops before we get to the Grand Canyon. And one of the first stops that we did, which was like around probably 45 minutes or so, was a dam that it's called Hoover Dam. I loved that place. I really, really, really loved it. However, I didn't decide to go to the actual dam. I decided to go to what is known as Mike O'Callaghan, Pat Tillman Memorial Bridge Plaza. Like, I went on the bridge. So there is a bridge that you can park your car, go up, and then walk on the bridge. And from that bridge, you have the view towards the dam. And that's what I was interested in. And that's what we did. And it was worth it. I loved it. And then in the end, the way that we went with the car, because we were a little bit confused. Okay, so how are we going from here? We ended up actually driving on the same bridge. So that was kind of fun. But I have to say that they are against drones. Now, I did not bring my drone with me on this trip because first and foremost, I had the drone for 2 years and a half now, and I have used it a couple of times. So I guess it was a poor investment on my side. But I knew that a lot of places that we are going to visit, they don't accept drones. So I was like, it's not even worth carrying it. But they did ask us. So when to get close to the place, our car was stopped, so there was basically like a security check, and I was like, oh my god, like they have guns and shit, and I will never get used with the guns that I see in this country. That's the end of it. And they were asking us if we have drones, and we were like, no, and if we have any weapons, and we were like, no. So in a way, I was like, can they tell if I'm lying? Like, because they didn't check the car, and I'm like, in a way, I'm happy that they are checking because I really do not want for anything wrong to happen. But then also, is that all you're telling me? Like, you're just asking me? I don't know how this works. So whatever. Then we continued our trip, and the next stop that we've done was a little bit down the road, so I think it was maybe 1 hour or 2 hours away, I decided that I wanted to stop in Chloride, which Chloride is a small town in Arizona, obviously. And I wanted to stop there because it looked like, wait, was it Chloride? I think so. It looked like, yeah. It looked like there's a bit of a ghost town. So we had to go a little bit off road. It was, I think we took route 125. It was a bit of a off road. The car was doing fine. We made it to Chloride. It wasn't off road. No. I'm lying. It was just like a weird kind of a road. And we made it there. We stopped and we saw what was like a Western town slash museum slash ghost town kind of a thing, but there was nobody there. And after that, I checked and it looked like there were events happening later on. Then there was like a tiny motel and a breakfast. There were people having breakfast or whatever. And then we decided to just keep going. However, if you ever want to make it to Chloride, make sure you are downloading your map because we have no network coverage. And so my map was not mapping anymore. And without knowing what kind of road we have to deal, I was like, I don't actually remember where we came from. And I didn't want to go back because it was a bit of a drive from the main road to make it to Chloride. And I was like, can we just loop it basically? Like we made like this, we stop to Chloride and then we go around it. And I looked that there's a road, but the road was really extremely off-road. And I would highly not recommend that road if it was raining. We were lucky that there was no rain. It was really dry. Because it would have been very muddy. So a car like us, we could have got stuck like for sure very soon after we started. But we went there for like, I don't know, half an hour or maybe more. It was very off-road. We were going very slow. But eventually we made it back to the main road. And soon after, we stopped at just to have a look. It's called Kingman Turquoise, and it's a stone supplier. So they have this beautiful turquoise jewelry and beautiful rocks. We didn't buy anything at all. We just looked at it. It looked really nice, but I was like, I don't want to just add rocks to my stuff that I have, right? So then we continued our drive. We passed through Kingman, and then we continued the drive a little bit more, and we wanted to stop at Welcome to Seligman sign because at that sign it's written Birthplace of Historic Route 66. And we stopped there. It's just literally a sign, so you stop at the edge of the street, like on the edge of the street. We took there some pictures and then we continued. We wanted actually to stop somewhere in Kingman, but then I didn't remember why we were stopping for, so we continued. Very close to that place was Dante's Descent, but we decided like, no, we're not gonna stop there. So we continued, and then we went to Williams. As I was saying, our accommodation was Williams. We did not stop. So we continued and we did the drive all the way to the Grand Canyon, South Entry, obviously. And it just happens that usually, I think between maybe 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., there's a long queue. I do not know exactly why. And so we did get stuck in that for maybe 15 minutes. When we arrived, it was almost done. So it took us maybe 15 minutes or so. We weren't stuck that much in the queue. And we took, like basically, they need to check your card and so on. And because we bought a card that is called America the Beautiful, and we bought that in advance, we were able to take uh, like number one, which was open, and that was only because we already have the prepaid card. Now, this card is actually an annual subscription, so you have we paid $85 for it, and you have in total it's valid for the four people in your car, and it's valid for 1 year, and you can visit all of the national parks within US. And I decided to get this one because I wanted to visit national park. Like I wanted to visit Grand Canyon, Zion Park, and Bryce Park. And I was like, well, if we're visiting these three, we are already paying for it because the entry was around 25-35 for each park. So after that, whatever other parks we're seeing throughout the whole rest of the year, it's going to be basically for free. So we had the card, we went in. I need to mention that this was end of March, and so there was still snow, and I was so excited because we had no snow, or like 1 day of snow, throughout the whole winter in New York City. And so I was excited, like, oh my God, I get to see some snow. Yay! But because we were driving since 7 a.m. and we did a lot of stops, I just told you the main points and a bit of walking and stuff like that. I wanted to stay until the sunset, but then I realized, oh, we are here around 3 or 4 p.m. And the sunset is like at 7-ish. I was like, And another thing that I have to mention is that, unfortunately, my husband went to the gym one day. No, not one day. We left. When did we leave? We left on the 25th on Saturday. So yeah, he went to the gym on the 24th on Friday. And he was not feeling okay. He extra did it, and his legs were in pain almost the whole trip. And we started basically the trip towards Grand Canyon on the 28th. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4 days later. However, on the 5th day, he started feeling better, kind of on the 6th, if you ask me to be completely honest with you. And so even though my point was like, I don't know if I'm ever coming to Grand Canyon again, I want to do some hikes. And even though in March, since there was still a lot of snow, you can do so many hikes, but I wanted to do some hikes. I realized that we cannot do that because I can't leave my husband in shambles. Even in the beginning, I was so mad at him. And I was like, I'm going to let you at the car and I'm going to go and do some hikes. Like, I'm not going to. But then I realized that I was also kind of tired. So the big surprise when we got to the Grand Canyon, my thing was this. I want to go to the Grand Canyon. And the first stop that I want to do in the Grand Canyon would be to stop at the, what's it called? The info point, right? Like everybody does that, right? Am I wrong? Like you go to a place like this, you go to the freaking info point, like the visitor center. Well, the visitor center was closed. Apparently, because lack of people working for them, they were closing it down, I think 2 days. You have to check right now because it passed. But back then, it was open only, I think, 2 days per week. And then they also announced that it's going to be fully closed for 2 weeks in May for extra training and whatever. I'm guessing getting ready for the summer. But because they didn't have enough people, probably they couldn't. I don't know. The point is that it was closed. And I was so upset because I wanted to get the map. First and foremost, I wanted to get the map. Secondly, I wanted to get some information to tell me what's open, what's not. And then there were huge maps in front of the visitor center in which they would tell you the hikes, how long it takes, and stuff like that. And so we just decided on very short points that we can walk to. It's like it was an easy walk. One of it was Matter Point. It's like a viewpoint, and then the other one probably I don't remember the name of the other one to be honest. Oh, was it Yavapai Point? I think so. So we just did two view sites, and then we even decided to wait for the shuttle back to the visitor center, and then we kind of left. All in all, it was a half an hour walk just to see a little bit of the Grand Canyon. Um, we decided we're not gonna stay for the sunset because it's insane. To be honest with you, it would have been way too late, and we were tired because we were driving for so long. And in the end, we had to drive back to Williams, and I told you it was around 1 hour. And we decided to, I think we arrived there around 6 p.m. So, it was a lot of driving that we did that day. And I have to mention that my husband didn't want me to drive at all. I could have driven because I felt a bit safer. I was like, this is like Iceland kind of a thing, right? It's not that difficult. It's not that dangerous like it would be in New York from my point of view. But he said no, so I did not drive at all. And to be honest, after that, I found out that I'm actually not allowed to drive because I'm supposed to change my driving license, because I'm not a tourist anymore, and because I need to actually go through an actual driving test. I need to do a bit of classes. So I was like, not happening. But at the time, I didn't know. Now that I know, I'm not going to drive in the United States until I don't know when I want to. I don't want to get into this, but I hate the fact that I can't just basically take my driving license and get the whatever driving license they have in the United States. Anyway, so we went back to Williams, and because it was 6 p.m., we wanted to go to like a place that was a truck, like a food truck. And unfortunately, it closed at 6, and at 6 is when we actually got there. We stayed at a motel, and the motel was decent. Nothing too crazy about it. Nothing too like really nothing special, and nothing. It was literally like a hotel, like a motel, a beautiful room, clean, nice, no problems whatsoever. And so because of that, we decided to, where can we go and eat? And we just found very close to our place, like a few minutes walk, there was diner. And when we entered, and again, my husband and I, we keep doing this. Most of the time when we go to eat someplace, we usually go just like 15 minutes or so before it gets very crowded. Most of the time, I'm with emphasis on most of the time, which I love, to be honest. So we went there. We were set at the table, and it really looked like a diner from the movies when the main character is trying to run away from somewhere, and they are just very tired, going to a diner in the middle of nowhere, and the people are dressed in a specific way, and the diner is in a specific way, and they have the tiny notebook and they write the order in. It was just from the movies, and I was loving it so much. I was also very tired. But I was loving it so much. We had really great food. I don't remember what we had. I have to be honest. I had cocoa. I wanted cocoa milk. I didn't care whatever else I was having, but I want cocoa milk. And then I think I had some fried chicken maybe with some fries or something, whatever it was. But it looked so good. And it was delicious, and the diner was full, and there were some locals who went there, and I'm always so proud when I go to a place where locals go, because I know that means that it's a good place. And nobody can tell me otherwise, honestly. Okay, so that was the day. And I think for whoever is curious, not an ad, obviously nobody's sponsoring me, and you know this for a fact. It's called El Rancho Motel, which I insist for a one night sleep on the road. I think it's just great. Um, we didn't have any problems whatsoever. So then the next morning, the plan was again to wake up early in the morning, go through the Grand Canyon in the south, but this time around, come up with the Grand Canyon, like to come out in the exit in the east. Oh, wait, I have to mention something though about the motel. So, for who doesn't know, I worked in hospitality. So, I was front desk for around 2 years in Iceland. And I've realized that I've realized that some things are probably because I had the job of a receptionist, and I'm like, I do know what your job is, and you're not doing it properly. So we got to the motel, we check in, and I'm asking the guy, is it okay to go on that road? So my plan was to go in the south entry and then come out of the east entry and then continue basically towards the north. So basically go all around the Grand Canyon and then make it to south to Colorado City in Arizona. And so I'm asking him because I saw that there was some storms the few days before or something, and it has been a particularly snowy winter in such a way that actually north rim of Grand Canyon, even though usually opens in May, this time around is going to open in June, which is going to fuck up a lot of plans for a lot of people. But I'm here, I'm asking a person, is that road okay? Can we drive on that road? Like, can I enter from the south and come out all the way through the east? And the guy was like, yeah, why? Did you hear something? And I'm like, that's what I'm asking you, the local who works in the fucking motel. That is supposed to tell me, me as a tourist, if I'm safe on the road or not. I did not tell him that, but I did tell him, I'm asking you. I'm not saying that I heard anything. I'm just double checking with you. And he's like, yeah, no, we didn't have any problems. Yeah, it's okay. But he got confused. And I'm like, how can you get confused that I'm doing the tourist thing that I'm supposed to do to ask the local person who works in hospitality if I'm safe to take that road? Like, what's happening right now? Anyway, that was funny for me. And I wanted to mention it. And so the next morning, we woke up and we went back to south entry, and this time around we were asked if we want a map, and I'm like, oh yes, please give me the freaking map. Yes, I love it. So what we decided to do, again, we did not do any kind of hikes, but we entered into the south of the Grand Canyon, and as I was saying, we made all of the stops possible on the road towards the 66. On the road towards the east entry or exit, whatever you want to call it. So, what we did was this. I got the map, and I was very happy to get the map. And we managed to do so many stops that I can't even... Like, I was very happy. Now, I have to mention that I can't tell you all of the stops that I've done because I haven't marked them down, to be honest with you. And also, I don't know if we actually stopped everywhere. But most of the stops were basically... As we were going from the south to the east, the Grand Canyon, basically, it's on your left side, right? And so we did have to make the stops basically to cut the main line, which I was like, I don't understand. Are you not supposed to stop if you are on this side? Are you only supposed to do these stops if you come from east to south? Or is it because most of the people, and this is what I've learned, most of the people do this loop that I mentioned the other way around. From Las Vegas, they go to Zion Park and all of that, and then they go around it, and then they eventually go through east in the south, and then they continue throughout west. We didn't do that, so there's that. However, I know that we stopped like Grandview Point, I'm not gonna tell you all of them. There was also more on point, if I remember correctly. Um, they were all very beautiful. So if you want to do this, make sure there was like a yeah, there was a lot of view viewing places. We also stopped at watchtower. Now, regarding the watchtower, you can actually go up, but it was a big line, and they only go. I didn't think that that's the case. I thought that you can just go. I mean, I'm sorry, but in Europe, sometimes when there are just random towers like this, you can just go, and just be nice to the person around you. And so I didn't know that you have to pay extra. And also, I didn't know that they are only letting entries a specific time. So I was like, I'm so out that I'm so out. I'm not doing this. Like, fuck that. No way. Um, Around that tower, watchtower, there's also like souvenir shops. So I went and I bought some postcards. And I do have to say, though, every time in every single place where I've been, and I bought postcards. Everybody's so nice, and please don't call me crazy. I felt the warmth of these people, and I'm like, is this what happens when you work mostly with nature and then people? When you are here because you really care. I mean, no, I don't see someone working for the Grand Canyon, like any part for the Grand Canyon and not caring about nature. It's just, I can't imagine that. So they were extremely nice, like so lovely, and the small talk, it's so making me feel like improving my day, which I love. And I really truly hope that it's always going to be like that, because I really truly enjoyed it. The watchtower was kind of our last stop that we did, so again I missed some stops on the way. And yeah, we went a little bit around it. There was also Navajo Point. And I think in the Navajo Point was when there was actually a tour guide that was explaining some stuff to people. Um, we did a lot of stops. It was not that crowded, but it was. I mean, I can only imagine how crowded it can get, because in some places, you there are not so many cars that you can, like, there are not so many spots where you can drive, right? Where you can stop. Sorry. So in some places we were like, I don't know exactly where to stop, but we managed. We managed. So yes, we did a lot of stops there. There was snow all over. The beautiful, like, we were able to see all the way in the distance. Apparently, it's something that you're not able to do that often. In one of the places, we were able to see very, 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 very high in the distance. And of course, when it's rainy or cloudy or whatever, the visibility is way less. But we were lucky to have had an amazing, sunny, clear day, kind of a day. It was windy, obviously, but we loved it regardless of that. Then we finally exited the Grand Canyon in the east side. And then soon after, we actually did a stop so we went and we stopped at the Horseshoe Bend. And Horseshoe Bend is basically, it's for free, but the parking is what you need to pay for. So we needed to pay, I think, $10 or so. There were so many people, and I cannot imagine it. It is not an understatement, because we were coming from the Grand Canyon and it was kind of chilly and so on. We had so many clothes on us. And as we went to the Horseshoe Bend, it got hotter and hotter and hotter. And I cannot imagine how it is in the summer, because, again, this was like a cold day. It was very hot. You really do need to hydrate. You really do need to have water with you, maybe also food. But this place annoyed the fuck out of me, because there were so many people who put themselves in danger for that great picture. Do it for the gram or whatever the kids say. I hated it so much that I just could not. I don't know. Maybe I was doing that when I was younger, and now I changed my mind. or maybe living in Iceland changed me, because I know that sometimes tourists die because they get too close to a dangerous thing. I don't know if maybe it's a combination of everything. But as much as I love the place, I hated the fact that people were putting themselves in danger for that picture. And something to remember about this place is that it can take you like 1 hour there and taking pictures and back. So really be prepared for water and everything. Now, another thing that I need to say is that there was another dam that I was like, should we stop? And I was like, no. So instead, we just decided we stop. We went through. I guess it was maybe part of what's it called? Page, the town, the city. But we only stopped at, I think it was a Walmart that we found there. And so we stopped at a Walmart and did some shopping, and then we continued our trip all the way to Colorado City, which was a few hours later. So again, it was a lot of driving, and we made quite a bit of. Didn't do any more stops, to be honest with you, because we were like, okay, we're ready to go. We booked an Airbnb, but about that, I'm going to tell you next time, and I'm going to tell you about how confusing the time zone was, and then the experience in Bryce Park and Zion Canyon, and how the weather, because of the weather, we need to make some changes. So, all of that in a future episode. But just to end this, I have to say that we made it to Colorado City again in the evening. So, again, we left early in the morning, and we made it there around 5 or 6 p.m. I don't remember exactly. And again, the time zone was very confusing anyway, so I don't think I knew for a fact at what time it was anyway to begin with. But yes, that was it. Obviously, I want to go again to the Grand Canyon, maybe to see the north and the west. I also want to do some proper hikes, because we did not go down at all, and we decided to not go to the Antelope. And so there's a lot that I would love to come back in the north part of the canyon, basically. There was other places that we could have visited in that part, but because we were kind of tired and done with it, because it took us, I think, around 3 hours from when we entered the Grand Canyon in the south and then we exited, because of all the stops and all of that. So I would love to come back one day, but who knows what life brings us. Yes, I am very curious to hear from you if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, and if you have, if you've been to North and the South, and if you haven't, if it's on your list, or if you have any questions, other questions for me, let me know. This concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening and for reviewing Traveling Inside Out. If you want to get in touch with me, send an email to podcast@alinaigrad.com. And remember, your outer journey begins with inner work. Until next time.